what I am proposing now is that we are going to research one of those letters ourselves, the group here, or I'll lead you through it, and you can choose which letter we should research. I have not researched these letters yet, so I have no clue what we are having. In most likelihood, this is going to be like the most ordinary letter ever. But in the process, I hope to give you a sense of what I do and give you a sense of what all can be done. Again, I have not done this. And as you can see, the numbers are pretty high. I'm not up to date here. So this is letter number 1. As you can see, this is the blue stamp that the letter has to have. It's a Luft Feldpost. It is going from a person here. And the interesting thing is here, something is changed in the address because all 4 letters have something special. Here is letter number 2. And what is special here is this purple stamp here. Letter number 3 is interesting because unlike the other letters, this one has 2 stamps and not 1. So there's something interesting here too. And finally, we have this letter, and this one has a 3-digit number here. You might think, well, is that random? But no, there's something special about that.
Wow.
So these are random letters. Again, I didn't choose them. And we can look at them, or look at one of them, and try to figure out what this all means.
I think number 1 would be interesting because of the address issue. You have to go looking in your directories to try to figure out what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay with me.
Number 1 was my first one too.
I
Okay.
will vote for number 1 because it has the address in Radom, and Radom is in Poland. So we're going to
Correct.
figure out what's going on there.
Correct. One thing that I want to mention in
Unless
letter
there's
number
a different
2,
one.
that purple stamp is a briefstempel. And if you go online, and very often in on eBay and on Del Camp, they think that that is a sensor marking. It is not. It's a misconception that that is a sensor marking. It is actually a very common stamp applied by the post office. But in case you're ever if you ever look into this and they say this letter is censored, it is not. It has nothing to do with censoring. Okay, we're going to go with letter number 1. And let me show you my file. So this, I'll start with letter number 1, the first letter that I acquired. And sorry, I'm a researcher and I'm like anal about these things. I kept track when I bought it, how much I paid for it. This is letter number 1. The fact that it has a red is there's still something missing. I've not been able to figure out all information. This is the date that the letter was sent. This is whether it's a letter or a letter sheet. Letter sheets were were used more later in the war because it was cheaper. They were lighter. The number of stamps, 1 or 2, it actually mattered at a certain point. The type of stamp, there is 1A and 1B. There is also 1U, which is 1A is perforated. 1B is what is rouletted? Whatever. The second form. There's also 1U, which means that they don't that they had to use scissors to separate them. So they're
Imperforate.
imperforate. Thank you. Yes. Here is whether or not it has a brief stempel. That is that thing that I just mentioned. LGPA, won't bother you with that. Where they were, here's Russia, Scandinavia, different things. Whether or not it has a red cross, it turns out that matters. I'll explain that too if we get to that. Anyway, so whether the soldier survived, I can figure out but what kind of letter it is, if there's something special about the cancellation. And here's all the information about the sender and the recipient. Fred, you asked about Hungary, right?
Yes.
This is actually interesting, Fred. This is Militish, which was then Hungary, but is now in Serbia.
Ah.
So, and the soldier, he served in the SS. He was in Das Reich, one of the elite units. And interestingly enough, at that moment, he was somewhere in France. So now here's another one from Hungary, from Schenger. I don't know how I pronounce that correctly. And that is,
It's a woman.
yeah, but that's
That's addressed too. Yeah.
yes, it is addressed. The soldier was actually in northern Finland, retreating into Norway. And this letter is from October 19, 1944, so fairly late. Let's see, let's go back to our letter. And we had letter 2783. So letter 2783. There we go. I did highlight it, 2783. I paid €4 for it. So the first thing that we're going to figure out, right? We have the date. I typically put the date in because I need something to, what do you call it? As I put them in my file, although I haven't done this letter yet, obviously a unique identifier is the date typically. So the Germans have dating or different than us, than Americans. The Dutch do it differently too. This is actually the 1st of July. So it's not the 7th of January. One thing to realize is that the Europeans put the date for the day first and then the month. So this is July 7th, July 1st, 1942. As we can see, it's one stamp, and it is it's a regular perforated stamp. The 1B came only happened in 1943. So that is fairly common. This is a fairly common stamp at this point. So what else do I need? It's a letter. It's not a letter sheet. There's one stamp, 1A. There is no brief stample. So there's no special marking here. There's no LGPA. Again, that's going too far. We don't know the front yet. We do know that it has a red cross. So it gets the marking red cross. Now, what is a red cross? Why does some letters have a red cross? This was actually mandatory for letters coming from people in Germany. It would indicate that the moment that it was given to the post office, that this letter had priority. The red cross was mandatory. There were 3 things for a Luft Feldpost letter to have: the marking Luft Feldpost, the blue stamp, and the red cross. This was mandatory, because now the post office would realize that this letter required a separate handling. It had to be sent to Berlin on as fast as possible, where this letter would be sorted, so it went in a special box to be sent directly to Berlin. So the red cross is basically an express indicator. Now, interestingly enough, many letters don't have a red cross, which basically meant that they did not get that express treatment within Germany. Not everybody knew that they had to do this. Yes.
Question. Isn't a cross, an X like this through a letter, isn't that also used for registered letters?
Correct.
Plus, yeah.
Correct, Phil. So that basically means that these letters would, although they don't have the registered indicator, they would treat it the same way as express letters, registered letters. It would basically be without actually the extra payment. By the way, you can see the red cross actually is on the stamp here. So if you ever get these stamps and there's red crosses on that, perfectly normal, does not diminish the value in any way. It actually means, it has some meaning there. So we have a Red Cross, soldier survived. Well, we can start looking for that. Let's first find the name of the soldier. So this is Gefreiter, which is, this is the letter is sent to the soldier, right?
Okay.
So a Gefreiter is the lowest form in the lowest military rank in the German army was Soldat, soldier soldat. And if you survived the first couple of months, you became a Gefreiter. It basically means you're still a soldier, however, you're no longer a newbie. So his first name, we don't have to deal with Sitterling here, is Fritz. And this is a C, R, U with an umlaut, LL. It's Krul. So let me put that in. So it's Gefreiter, Fritz, Krul. Now, so this is the website of the Volksbund in Germany. The Volksbund is a private organization that, although it gets money from the government to maintain cemeteries all around the world of German soldiers, and they keep track of everybody who has that they know about who died in the Second World War, but also if they have older graves, they're in there too. So, and it is actually, oh, actually, maybe it's in English too. Oh, that makes life a little bit easier for you guys, I guess. Hold on. So we can do a grave search now. So this is the number that they have in their files, 4.8 million people. So we can type in the first name. And what was it?
Fritz.
I have the letter, yeah, Krul. And we also, it's not a very common name, so I'm not going to put the place of birth in. Well, we have a Fritz Krul from Garwitz.
No umlaut though.
No umlaut. And he was born in Garwitz. And grenadier is, later the soldiers became grenadiers, which basically meant they were a soldier too, but that sounded more famous. Now this could be the guy, although you're right, he doesn't have an umlaut. It could be him, but there is something that I know already by looking at this that I don't think it is him. And I'll explain that later. So anyway, so this website basically tells you all the information that of the people that they know. If he's not in there, it doesn't mean that he survived. It could also mean that they don't have the information. So at this point, we have to leave this open. So we leave this open, and we can now put in the Feldpost number. Now every unit this is 12414C. You see 12414C. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Every military unit had a 5-digit number. Some units had an L in front of it, which means that they were in the Luftwaffe, the Air Force. Some units had an M before it, which means that they were a Marine, that they were in the Navy. And some units had a letter after it. Letters after the number means that they were in an actual fighting unit. So this is 12414C, means that we have a soldier who's actually in a fighting unit. Not in the Navy, not in the Air Force, but in the regular, he's a regular soldier in on the front. So now a man named Kanapin spent years of researching all those Feldpost numbers, those 5 digits, and he wrote 3 books about it. And somebody put that on a website. So this is going to tell us to which unit that 5-digit number was associated with it. So they were not allowed to write their unit on there because, right, this that was for security reasons, but they had to put that 5-digit number in there. So 12414.
Oh.
And then there we are. Now the letter was written in 42. So in 42, he served in Infantry Regiment 77. And now I'm going to search for that. And now, let's see, remember 1242C? He served in the 10th Company of Infantry Regiment 77. Now we can figure out where he was located. This unit was subordinated to the 26th Infantry Division. See, Infantry Regiment 77 was subordinated to the 26th Infantry Division. So now I have the division, I have the regiment, and I have the company that he served in. And the letter is dated
July,
July. So
the 1st of July. So he was in the original 1 January.
yeah, so let's see if it's here. This, oh, perfect. Again, I didn't do this. This is July 1st, 1942. This is the actual military map where the units were at that time. And this is the so-called Rzhev salient, a very weird thing. They were practically completely surrounded by the Russians in this. What happened was, after the Germans were beaten back from Moscow, some of these troops held out, and this is actually a very precarious situation. Now, the 26th Infantry, 26th Division, as you can see, is located here at that point. So we have now found where this soldier was on that date.
They were there until July. There's nothing between January and July, so they were somewhere.
No, there is. No, look, on
Okay.
1st of January, right, there's a whole bunch of them. So the 1st of January, they were there too,
Yeah, slightly different place. Yeah,
slightly different pay, right? But as you can see, the front has moved. So this was January 42. In July, the front had moved. They were pushed out this direction.
yeah. Wow. Fascinating.
And you can go on 27th of July. And by then, that whole weird thing was cleared out. Because basically, you can Google it. There were massive battles. Here, do you see this?
Yeah,
This is where that was. So Moscow is here, and they had this weird thing sticking out. So as the Russians forced them back in 1941, the Germans held on to this, and they were stuck there until exactly around this time. Again, coincidence. So the 26th was literally all the way at the top here, right? We saw that from this map.
yeah.
This map, right? Here is Rzhev, and this is Rzhev 2. They were actually here, and they were really far away from that. And they cleared this out at a certain point, because obviously they shortened the front line here. And that is what this map shows. The front line has been shortened here. And now they're located here south of Beleu.
Oh.
And that was on 2-9. So in this period, they cleaned out that salient, that thing that was sticking out, because it was very hard to defend that. But we have found that there's a change in address. So was he really there? Radom is indeed, somebody already mentioned that, that is a city in Poland. So he was not actually on the front. But what does this mean? This is a U, this is an F, this is an F, this is a Z. Remember that Sitterling Z? And this is S-C-H-U-L-E.
Cool.
It is a school, very good. But what is UFFZ? It's an Unteroffiziersschule. He was sent to become a what is it? An officer. He went to officer school. So this man, Gefreiter, was chosen to be sent to the officer school in Radom. And he was not at the front, and therefore the letter was redirected. So let's see.
Isn't this unusual? Basically, Gefreiter is
Yes.
like private or something. They don't.
He was a private,
They
but
don't
this is
usually-
probably
They don't usually find a private as a suitable candidate for officer school.
no, but it's an Unteroffizier, so
Okay.
probably like sergeant or
Okay,
right, or corporal or something like that. We're not talking about high officers.
okay.
So let's see if we can find him. And now Unteroffizier Schule Radom. No, this is the Bundeswehr. That's not, we need to have it from. Yeah, this is probably too difficult. Mess. Anyway, he went to an oh, there. Is this it? Anyway, he went there, and this is going to take more time than and sometimes you're lucky you find a photograph of it actually. But no, this is Marienwerder. This requires a longer time research to actually go through all this stuff and see if you can find it. This is an Unteroffiziersschule, again in Marienwerder, so another city. But anyway, he was not at the front, but he was chosen to become an officer. And now we can find actually the sender of the letter. First of all, we can find, obviously we have this, so it is in Kamen, and that is in Westfalen. And you can see here Kamen 2, and here we have the last name, it is Engelhardt. In the Schlachthoofdstrasse. Okay, let's see if we can find that. Hoofdstrasse in Kamen in Westfalen. Yeah, this should be it. Sometimes the name changes, but well, we found this at least. This is the village. It's very well, it's a little town. I'm trying to find the street name in this village. So there's a separate web. This is all the streets in Kamen, and the street doesn't exist anymore. It must have been renamed. Schlachthof. It is the correct. It does no longer exist, this street. So now we're getting a more complicated issue. Can we figure out what the new street name is? But that's like a whole new story. So anyway, so we did find a lot of stuff, I think. We found this soldier, right? Apparently it doesn't look like he died. Good thing. He was his unit was in a precarious situation, but he was sent to a officer school back in Poland. That's why the address was changed. We haven't been able to figure out who this person is. which is complicated by the fact that the street doesn't exist anymore. It's sort of an interesting city. It's a sort of an interesting letter, I think, because obviously it has a story to tell, right? It has a story of this
Mhm.
soldier that moved and became an officer. With some more research, I might be able to figure it out, perhaps. But anyway, so this is what I do, and I love it. I think it's fascinating to sort of like, and you never know what you're going to find. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes there's some interesting things. But if you like research, I think this is a lot of fun. So-
How long did it take you to discover all of these, the appropriate sites for looking up this, that, and the other thing? It must have taken years of
Yes. So in the beginning, actually, I should go back. So because in the beginning, a whole bunch of things I didn't know about, and only later I figured out.
yeah.
So now I am obviously more skilled in doing it. But in the beginning, it was much harder. You can imagine, where's the book? It takes a lot more time to go through 3 of those books, although it's indicated all those. The moment I figured out that it's online and I could copy and paste, that saved an awful lot of time that I don't have to type in all those units anymore. So
Yeah.
that saved a lot of time. Remember this 3-digit number?
Yeah.
This one? That is actually the number of the post office on the front that is associated where this letter was sent to. So some of them have a 3-digit number, and there's books that tell you where that post office was located at that time. So somebody actually researched where all those post offices were located. This is number 878. And there's this book that lists, somebody has done this research, and 878, you can see that here. And the letter is from 21/10/1942. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
posted in Vienna. So 21/10/1942. Does everybody see this?
It's small, but yeah.
It's Maikop, which is on Crimea.
Ah,
So I know now that this unit, right, I know where this post office was that handled this particular letter.
it's
That's
interesting
awesome.
that he's just a laborer, apparently, Arbeitsmann.
Yes. So this man, if we do more research, we'll find that he was indeed an Arbeitsmann. He wasn't a soldier. He worked on he was working on defense systems or something like that. They also got those stamps. Everybody got those stamps. But he was not a soldier. He was probably in the RAD, the Reichsarbeitsdienst, which were laborers that were sent to the front to build bunkers, to repair bridges and that kind of stuff. And he was doing that on Crimea. So there is and Phil raised a good point. In the beginning, I wasn't able to find that information. Now I find more and more information. For example, the address book of Vienna is online, and you can find the sender, Hans Stöger, and whatever that street name is. You can actually very easily find him because the big city address books, they are online. Like the smaller ones, like this Kamen that we just had, they're not typically online because nobody's interested in that. But you can actually find, for example, what he did for a living and that kind of stuff.
Do you just Google them to find the books?
Yeah, well, I'm prepared for that.
Oh, look at this.
All
What's
sorts of-
that?
Whenever I used one, I put the link in.
Oh, that's
Oh.
wonderful.
So Vienna, and there is Vienna. And I don't know, it isn't. There it is. It's the Wiener Adressbuch for 1942.
Oh, that is so cool.
And now you can sort of like search for this. You can the inhoud, so you can search for this person, and
Mhm.
all right, so in band 1,
Probably fine.
here's the names. What was it? Stöger. Stöger.
Huh.
That should be it, right? Bit slow, but anyway, yes, so you can find it then, and you can find what his job was, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
this
that's
works
so
for
cool.
bigger cities.
And you found this just by Googling it, and then once you find it, you put it in your database so you don't have to Google for it again.
Correct.
Oh.
And it's really, and again, it typically, so going back to this, so these I've all found, or at least they're more than this, but this I've used in the past, and therefore I kept that link.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller villages are harder to find, obviously, but if you look at the bigger cities, it's easier to find. And some
Okay.
of them, like this one says Stadt und Kreis, that means that you have the city, but also the area around it, and smaller villages in that neighborhood will be in there too. The Germany spread out, Austria was a part of Germany then, but also you have things that are now in Poland, for example. Somebody mentioned Poland earlier. Here, Breslau, for example, Breslau is now in Poland.
Yeah.
I forgot the name, but it's no longer called.
Wrocław,
What was it?
Wrocław.
Wrocław. So, and Breslau, it was called Breslau then, and so it's the city, I have it of the city and the area around it. And actually, it's very interesting. You also have the ones in the Czech Republic. It's very interesting that those are easier to find than the original German ones. Here, Schlesien is probably also in Poland by now. Here, Stettin, is it in German? Is it in? No, yeah,
Szczecin is in Poland now.
is also in Poland. So, so you can. We have Breslau. So anyway, so yes, they're also from cities that are no longer German. You can find them in online by now. So you can find all that stuff and figure out background about these people.